and welcome. First off, the next out of season open days at the museum is Saturday and Sunday of this weekend, the 29th and 30th of October. Pop over, there's a couple of videos that I want to do over the next 2 days about a couple of things that are a little bit new here and there. This is what we're going to look at today. It's the KORG SQ10. It's the predecessor by a few years to the SQ1. This coming out in 1978, the same year as the KORG MS10. So as you can see, it's got the same form factor as the MS10, so it could basically sit on top of it. However, by modern standards, it is reasonably funky. For starters, it's 12 steps, not 8 steps, not 16 steps, but 12 steps. That means you can play any sequence between 1 and 12 steps. You can reset them by using these jack cables. So if you just want an 8-step sequencer, you plug it into maybe 9? Is it 9? Let's just plug that in. Go over to here, just double check. Oh, speed it up a bit. And then put this into reset triggering. No, we plug it into number 8. So if we want it to reset on 8, we plug it into 8. So now it's just an 8-step sequencer. But first we'll start simple. We'll click over to this setting in the sequence mode. That means it runs on the internal clock. You can adjust the speed right here, and you can press start, and as you can see, it will start ticking over here, there and everywhere. And it's just running a 12-step sequence. If we put in the multiple trigger out, that means it triggers, sends a pulse out on every single step, and we plug that into the trigger input of the MS10, for instance, and then you get channel A voltage out. That means that it's the voltage coming from these knobs at the top on channel A. You plug that into the frequency input, you'll get a simple 12-step sequence. And yeah, like I said, you can cut it down to 8 steps or whatever step amount you would like 3 steps, ooh. If you really wanted to, you could use another one of these rows, A, B or C, to trigger another synthesizer to play a different melody based on those knobs. You can even sequence 3 of them if you really wanted to. Now if we flick over to this sequence mode, it'll actually run exactly the same. However, it'll bounce between channel A and channel B. So that means it goes doodle-a-doodle-a-doo on the light on B, A, doodle-a-doodle-a-doo. So that makes it a 24-step sequencer. However, if you're only plugged into channel A voltage out or channel B voltage out, it'll only send the voltages out when you're on that step. When it's on the other one, it'll just go doodle-a-doodle-a-doo. In order to solve that problem, you use the analog mixer down here. You plug channel A into it, and then you also plug channel B into it, and then you plug that into there. And then the output of this is all 24 steps. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but that's how it goes. We've got these two sending off to the pitch of the sequencer. Now I can use channel C to send a voltage out to something else. Let's plug it into the filter cutoff. we flick over to this that's just got an arrow pointing forwards, it goes into single hit mode. That means when you hit it, it'll only go through once and then it'll stop. The speed of the internal clock can also be adjusted by these three inputs as well. We've got linear in, and then we got twice the amount of that, and then we got divided by that. So if you plug an LFO into that, you can adjust the clock speed. But you can also adjust the clock speed of it with the sequencer itself as well. So if we go the channel C voltage out into here, then these are adjusting the clock speed as well. Also, there are sequence modes, this one and this one, where you can send in an external clock, so step input into something like an LFO or something to drive it externally. The other funky thing is channel A and channel B have separate portamentos. So that means if you're on 24-step mode, you can have slidey for half of it and then solid for the rest. You can have two different slide speeds. All in all, it's a pretty strange sequencer, and by today's standards, it's arguably relatively useless, but it's cool regardless. And in this setup, you can play on it at the museum if you'd like. I'm going to take this back and I'm going to have a go with it a little bit more, and maybe you'll see a video on that at some point. Anyway, I've included a download of the samples and sounds from this, special effects and a few random bass lines and things. They're available over on Patreon, you can download them there. And if you come in on the weekend, you can have a go on it anyway. Anyway, until next time, have a lovely time.